Ladies and gentlemen, Romero Brito.
Hello, everybody. Well, I'm going to tell you my story, and I'm going to tell in two ways. One, talking to you, the story of my life. And the other one is creating a piece of art. But I'm not going to be able to finish tonight because I can't do a painting in a matter of minutes. And I don't have a lot of time in here. So it's going to be a speed-up story. Anyway, I was born, most of you may know I was born in Brazil. My mother had 12 children. I don't know how she made it to have 12 children. Only 9 survived. I have one son. He's amazing, but it's a lot of work because I'm always worried about him. So anyway, so she got 9 children, single mother. I'm the 8th of all those kids, with the younger one. And imagine growing up in a family that you don't see your father. I never saw my father there. I spent more time with my best friend, Lucas, than I'm with my father. And so it was growing up in that setup, poor, in the slums of Brazil. And my only thing that I was looking forward was tomorrow. And I didn't know how it would come. I knew that I was going to school, a public school, which was very difficult. So here, you go, like one of my first brush strokes for this painting here, which I'm gonna do this. So we all know that we all start our lives, when we are born, like a white canvas, with the destiny to be happy. But little by little, depending on how we put colors on the canvas or how we shape our lives, make us happy or unhappy. So, growing up with a bunch of my brothers, without the family structure, it was just a mom there. There was days there was food, there was days there was no food. There was days I went to school with no food, like hungry. I remember one day I thought I was gonna die because I didn't know what was happening with me. I was doing exercise and I just faint, and and then I find out it was because I did not have breakfast, and the school didn't have food for the kids. And anyway, times go by, and I live not far from the beach. It was not like leaving. Oh, what happened? Oh, I live not far. Please don't cry because it's not really, every time I tell this story of my life, which, recently I started doing a documentary, I cry so much. But anyway, so it was like a very, as most of us, we have our own stories. But mine was, growing up a life of transformation, growing up poor, with all the challenges you can imagine in the life of a young man. And surrounded by all the difficulties that you can imagine. But one thing that I always had inside of me was, as growing up, was, okay, there must be something out there. And some event really happened that was so special to me was to meet a family in the beach, because the beach in Brazil is very democratic. You meet all sort of people. And I met this family from England. And for me, it was the most incredible experience was spending time going to this house, because they live in the same street, but we live in different extremes. And then I saw the mother, the father, and they had a lawn, they have dogs, and they have great food, and I love spend time with them. And then it came to a point that, when I was a teenager, I wanted to do something, besides going to school. I was thinking about what I'm gonna do for my future. I'm gonna get a job, and they have nobody to get inspired to. And I got inspired by my friend's father. He was a diplomat. So I, start dreaming about being a diplomat, traveling the world, meeting people, learn about different cultures. And I end up saying, you know what? I need to do something that I create a story for myself. I want to do something. And so I went to the Army. And after the Army, I went to law school. I was in my 4th semester. I was so miserable there that I just did this big move, which was quitting law school in my 4th semester. And I was like, there was this thing I liked doing. I didn't know what would be, if I could do well or not, which was art. So I start, I keep painting, whatever was going, I was always trying to do something, painting cardboard, whatever I could put my hands on. And I also liked the idea of reading books. And somehow, I was always thinking about doing something that could be good for me, you know. I was like, how am I going to be able to make some money, because money was very, difficult in my house. And I thought, well, maybe I can do like take care of plants, because I love plants, you know. So, and I started taking care of some plants in the backyard of my mother's house, and I used to take to a supermarket to try to sell, or in the streets. So I was always trying to create things that I would be able to survive from boxes or whatever I could do. And well, when I decided about quitting law school, because of this friend from England that I made in Brazil, and I told them that I would love one day to visit them, selling my work in Brazil, in the streets of Brazil, I was able to save some money and buy a ticket. And I got a ticket to go to Europe, and my first stop was Spain. And I went in a plane that today I will never get into it, because it was really a plane that went from, somewhere in Latin America all the way to Spain. And anyway, I arrived in Europe, and I spent 1 year in homes of people that I met through this family. I had to go back to Brazil to continue my studies. And that's, when I say, okay, there's no way, I can't continue this. I need to leave Brazil. I'm so disencouraged about the whole system. And I was able to get a ticket to come to Miami to visit a friend of mine, and I wanted to go back to Europe. And when I came over here to Miami, I fell in love with the city. And I start, thinking about, should I stay here, go here? And then I went basically back to Europe. And when I was there, I was like, no, that's not Europe. I think I need to be in a place that's more vibrant, which is Miami. So I moved back to here, and I started rewriting my story. And what I mean rewriting my story is because my dream was to be a diplomat. My dream was to have a job and be, an artist, maybe like a part-time artist, like a hobby. And so I started rewriting my story, and I didn't know how to do it. And that's why today when I meet somebody super young, I totally understand how we feel, because, a lot of time, I have something that was my advantage, was the fact that I didn't have nobody with high hopes for me. I didn't have my father pressuring me. I didn't have my mother pressuring me. It was all on myself, you know what I mean? My mother was not telling me every day, go to school or read books or hang out with good friends. She was a simple person. She was just trying to take care of us. So I was like, my blank canvas was just for me to figure out what to do, and here I am. So, I worked so hard on every single thing that I've done. And a lot of time people, see me today and they ask me how you did it. And I know there's so many incredible stories or incredible people out there that we see today on television, we read in history books, that they changed their life, they transformed their life from horrible beginning, from a situation that only themselves understand and know what it takes to go from 0 to 100 or 1,000. But it takes every move you do, it creates a picture of tomorrow. And that sometimes is very hard to understand in the world that we live, where there's so much information, everything is moving at the speed of light, that for a young person to understand that sometime you definitely need to put time in everything you do and love and passion. I wish everybody that, had a chance to walk, and see and speak, that they find their purpose in life. Because once you find something you love to do, it's so much easier, because you find energy when you feel weak. You find inspiration when you don't have one. And somehow inspiration comes from all over. But I think number one, I'm so grateful that I find my inspiration early on in my life. That art was always there for me, and I never knew that could transform my life. And I know that each one of you here in this audience, and I know there's so many young, kids out there, young girls and boys, that somehow they don't have opportunity to be here in this country, in America, or a country, or any other country, let's say, in the first world, that there's so much more opportunity for them than someone growing up in Latin America like I was born. That if you have a chance to change your life, you can start as a brushstroke. We always start with a white canvas. It's all depend on us. What are we going to do with this white canvas? And yes, there's challenges, but some challenges can make us stronger. It's easy maybe for me to tell to someone today who is going through a lot of difficult time, but you have to have hope, and the hope of transformation. We can do it, but we have to put a lot of time to it. And I hope tonight, my short story, I could stay here hours and hours because it was not that easy, was not that simple. I just got very few moments to tell you. I hope tonight I'll leave some inspiration for you, and you can share with a friend of yours. And maybe today you learn a little bit more about my work, because a lot of people, when they see my art, they think Romero Brito is a guy that's happy 24/7, which is not the case. But I choose happiness instead all the pain that I went through when I was growing up. And I still go, because I'm still growing up in terms of, I still have so much to do in my life. I'm almost 60, you may not think, but I'm almost 60. I'm gonna be 60 in October. A lot of people tell me that I look 48, but well, sometimes 38, depending what kind of glasses they wear. Or how much they want from me, that's the other one. But, there's so much for me to do. I'm not gonna finish this canvas here, but the messages they follow, love moves us. And once you find something you love, and you put love in your heart, everything can happen. That's the message I want to leave for you, and a message of inspiration. Thank you very much.